Uncharted Drake's Fortune holds such a special place in my heart. It's not my favourite game of the series, but for nostalgia and what it means to me alone, it's a really close second. This is the game that introduced me to story games. It's the main reason I'm obsessed with narratives, world building, and characters. Not only that, but it was my first adult game, I guess. My mum and dad were pretty strict on the whole, you can't play games that have too high of an age rating, which, looking back, is fair enough. I'm really happy I got to play this game for the first time when I was old enough to comprehend what was going on, and more importantly, really appreciate the game. It was the first game I played with blood.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Oh, but you're bleeding.
Yeah, it goes with the territory.
Guns. Swearing.
Oh, this is bullshit, Roman, and you know it!
And death. And playing it, 12-year-old Ben felt very mature. I've had the game in my possession for about 4 years or so, but it only occurred to me in the last year that I should try and platinum it. After looking on the trophy list, I was under the impression that it would be a very, very hard game to plat. But I'm still in the middle of trying to platinum Red Dead 2, and everything's super easy compared to that game. So without further ado, I platinumed Uncharted Drake's Fortune, and this is what I thought. Before we get into the trophies, I just want to talk about characters, story mechanics, and so on. Just give an overall view of the game. Mine might be slightly different, considering I've played the game through multiple times, compared to those who've played it probably just once. So let's start off with our main character, Nathan Drake. Nathan Drake is our protagonist of the story, and all the other Uncharted games we play. He's a really, really good one. When we're first introduced to him, he's a young, suave, good-looking guy. However, even within the first chapter, he's presented to us as kind of an arse and quite selfish. He doesn't want anyone else knowing about this treasure other than him and Sully, who we'll get to later, and even goes as far as abandoning Elena on the island to get a head start on finding the treasure.
I'm a crew, and I promise you that... Son of a bitch.
However, Nathan being a dick is quickly pushed aside when we're shown how much of a badass he is and how witty he is. However, as the story continues and Nate gets himself into more and more danger, we see him quite quickly develop from a selfish 2-bit thief out for himself to a worried, quite caring guy. He's the first to mention to Elena that they should give up on finding this treasure, as the chance of death is too high.
Fine. It's me, okay? I am quitting. Are you coming or not?
So that's it. You're just gonna forget about the treasure and forget about Drake?
God damn it, this is not worth dying over.
There's also a really cute side of Nate we get to see, where he rambles on about history and religion when no one else really seems to care. And we can see that, in every regard, under all the biceps and guns, he's a massive nerd, and it's quite brilliant.
So look, when Drake sailed into the Pacific, he took the Spanish fleet completely by surprise. He captured their ships, he took all their maps, their letters, their journals, and he recorded everything in this diary.
So this...
But when he got back to England, Queen Elizabeth confiscated all of his charts and logbooks, including this one, and then swore his entire crew to silence.
Yeah, so this...
You see, Drake discovered something on that voyage, Sully. Something so secret and so valuable, they couldn't risk it getting out.
All right, Nate, just pretend for a minute that I don't really care about any of that stuff and cut to the chase, would you?
We then have Sully, Nathan's partner in crime. He's quite a bit older than Nate, which he continues to make apparent throughout the game.
Oh, hold on. Hold on, kid. I'm not as young as I used to be.
His only main traits are that he's a bit of a player, or at least was back in the day.
Yeah, you weren't too old for that little barmaid in Lima, were you?
Ha! Well, that was different. Although I must admit, equally as strenuous.
And he's made a few bad business deals with some bad people that he's failed to pay off, which is one of the main reasons why he's even helping Nate look for all this treasure in the first place.
See, your friend owes me money, Mr. Drake. A lot of money.
The contrast is quite stark. You can see that Nate is clearly in this business for the mystery and adventure of it, whereas Sully is in it purely for the money. That being said, you can see he really does care about Nate, and is sort of an anchor to stop him being completely stupid and going off the rails. I guess you could say it's sort of a father-figure relationship. It's more like an older brother-younger brother relationship, which is very odd considering the fourth game, but we'll talk about that in a separate video. Then, to make up our trio of main characters, we have Elena. We're introduced to her at the same time as Nate. She's a journalist, and like Nate, is super interested in the history and mystery of all these myths and legends. She's quite cool in the way that she can quite happily hold her own, and very nonchalantly shoot some guys in the first chapter, even though it's made apparent she's never even fired a gun before, let alone killed anyone.
Do you know how to use one of these?
Yeah, it's like a camera. You point and shoot, right?
Good girl.
Her and Nate being a thing is apparent from the get-go, but not so much in this game, only towards the end, which I quite liked. The relationship isn't really forced, it just kind of happens. And it's always on the rocks anyway, sometimes for no apparent reason at all, which makes it all the more interesting. One issue with Elena is that she's very bipolar when it comes to if she wants to be in danger or not. In this game, she makes it apparent that despite the high chance of death, she wants to continue to find the treasure, even without her camera to record it.
Maybe you hadn't noticed, but we're kind of outnumbered.
We're doing fine so far.
However, in later games, she tells off Nate for doing exactly the same thing, but then also proceeds to change her mind about it whenever she sees fit. The whole story is that Sully and Nate are off to try and find El Dorado, the lost city of gold, after they pick up new evidence of its existence, with Elena tagging along as a reporter, trying to get a scoop on the whole thing, hoping for it to make her journalist career. However, Sully's old rival, Gabriel Roman, follows them, kills Sully.
He's got nothing to do. Sully! Sully!
And it's up to Nathan and Elena to battle through an island and an abandoned colony full of an armed militia ran by this guy called Eddie Raja.
Hey, Drake.
Eddie Raja. I should have guessed.
Who was hired by Gabriel to keep any of the treasure hunters at bay, while Gabriel and his men extract the treasure. As a side note, it's a running theme that everyone in the treasure hunting business knows everyone else for some reason. For once, I'd like two people to bump into each other and just go, "Who the hell are you?" But it never happens. Anyway, as the story goes on, you find out that El Dorado is a statue, not a city of gold, which I think the developers did on purpose to make it seem more believable that satellite imaging just has happened to miss an entire city made of gold. However, in literally every game, you fight through abandoned cities and colonies that are wide out in the open, that apparently no one's known about for centuries. As the story goes on, we find out that Sir Francis Drake did find El Dorado, but decided to keep it hidden from the rest of the world, sinking the city where the statue was and sinking all the ships, not allowing any of them to leave with the treasure. Towards the end, you find out that the statue is cursed, and when opened, turns people in the area into these zombie Wendigo-like creatures. Which is why there are no Spaniards kicking about on the island. They've all been turned into these things, all except Drake, who defended himself until his last breath, which makes for a very convenient yet kind of sad moment where Nate finds his hero's body and he realizes he might be wasting his life all for nothing, just like Drake did.
It's Drake. He never found it. He just died here. So much for greatness. Wasted his life. For nothing.
It's a lovely bit of character development, but also is just plot convenience. It also lets us know that curses and magic are just real in this universe, which no one seems to really question, which I found weird at first, but I mean, to be fair, if you go searching for mystical items, you have to expect there to be something slightly otherworldly about them. But you eventually manage to stop Gabriel and his men from getting the treasure off the island by sinking it to the bottom of the ocean, after you realise how dangerous it would be out in the world. And that's about it. Oh, and you find out that the Nazis were also looking for the treasure. I mean, it makes sense, Hitler was actually obsessed with trying to find mythical artifacts like the Holy Grail, but it doesn't really serve a purpose in the story other than giving you this really cool shot of a U-boat in the Amazon.
Well, there's something you don't see every day.
My God.
And making for genuinely the most scary gaming experience I've had in the final few chapters. Speaking of which, from chapter 16, the game gets a bit scary and you get into contact with these descendants, as they're called. I've played this game through about 5 times, and even still I found myself watching every cutscene with just as much excitement and nervousness as the last. Chapter 16 onwards is where the game really shines. My first time playing, I remember I had to get my cousin to do some of the more dimly lit sections for me, but I was that scared. Obviously not scared anymore, I know all the sections like the back of my hand, but the section where you go and put the power back on, there's always some amount of fear in you when you play that section, and if you say otherwise you are lying. I'd never heard anything about Uncharted before playing this game. I had no clue what it would be about, and also that it would take a horror turn towards the end. But the treasure being magical is what makes it Uncharted, and I'm so happy I got to play this game. Also, just as a side note, the shooting mechanics are good, they still hold up. The gunplay is better than some games I played recently actually, and it's the first game I ever played with cover-based shooting, but it makes perfect sense. You're in a lost, crumbling city, there are going to be random pillars of bits of rubble, why wouldn't you use it as cover? I think it also adds to the intensity, especially in harder difficulties, of having the bullets whiz past your head as you crouch desperately behind some rock. It also gives you a bit of breathing space and lets you think about what to do next. Also, the graphics still hold up. Obviously, I played the remaster version on the PS4, but even looking at the gameplay from the original version on the PS3, it really isn't that bad. And at its core, this game is really cinematic. It's very beautiful. Finally, I can't believe I've gone this far without mentioning it, but the music in this game is phenomenal. It really, really is. I mean, just listen to this. I think this is the game that first made me realise the effect that music can have on you while you play the game. In this sense, the main score makes you feel confident, triumphant even. You're Nathan Drake, an adventurer. What's around the next corner? Who knows? But you've got your wits about you, friends by your side, and you're going to places no man's been for hundreds of years. What isn't there to be excited about? Okay, I think I've talked enough about story and whatnot. I know I spoiled it, but you had a warning, and the game's been out since 2007. So if you haven't played it by now, that's on you. Even still, please, 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 please go and play this game. It's a brilliant game made by a great company and very talented people. It really does deserve all the recognition it gets. I could spend all the time in the world lecturing you on how amazing it is, but you really do need to experience it for yourself. The remaster version was free on PSN a good couple of months ago, so I can't imagine it's that expensive. Plus, getting the remaster version also gives you numbers 2 and 3, which equally is good. So please go away, play this game. Now, let's move on to what this video is all about. Trophies. Normally, I would go through the trophies in ascending order from bronze to plat. However, almost all these trophies group together quite nicely, so I'll go through them in their groups. Our first group is difficulty trophies. You'll get a trophy for beating the game in each of its difficulties: easy, normal, hard, and crushing. There is a bonus trophy in the remaster version if you beat it in brutal, but you don't need to do that to get the plat. Now, like a fool, I thought this meant you had to play the game through 4 separate times, beating it individually in each difficulty, which is what I did. Kinda glad I did it, as the story is so great it never really got old, and I always found value in the replay. However, the easiest way to do it would be to play the game first time round in Crushing, and by that you instantly get all the other trophies as well when you beat it. However, Crushing is really, really difficult. It's the first time I've felt any real challenge in a story game. You actually have to get good to beat it, which sounds odd for a story game, but it's true, trust me. In Crushing, you will die over and over and over again, and the only way around it is to memorize enemy movements, timings, and a lot of trial and error, thinking about what's the best path you can take to get through an area. For that reason, I would suggest you play the game through on normal or easy first, just so you don't have to worry about the combat that much. It still plays a role, but it's nice to be focused and immersed in the story rather than worrying about how to get through each section. My best tip for beating the game on Crushing, because trust me, it is hard, is just be patient and play it smart. Don't run and gun, use cover, conserve ammo when you can. Chapters 6 to 10, probably the hardest to beat. After that, you should start to get into the flow of things. You'll get a bronze for beating the game in easy and normal, a silver for hard, and a gold for Crushing. Next up, we have treasure trophies. There are these little treasures you can find dotted around areas of the game. Some are harder to find than others, but they are identifiable by a little shine or glimmer they give off. There are 60 in total. You get a trophy for every 10 that you find, from 1 to 60. Now, if you beat the game in a difficulty, then replay the same difficulty later on, you can turn on rewards. These are things like being able to change the look of Nate and turn on fun filters. But within this, you also get tweaks, which are essentially cheats, 2 of which are infinite ammo and one-shot kills. So the way I would suggest you get all the treasure trophies would be playing the game first time round in easy or normal, then later play it again in easy or normal, depending on what you played first, get a guide up online, and turn on infinite ammo and insta-kill, and breeze through the game, following the guide to find all the treasures. There are many guides online, but I'll link the one I used in the description. Alternatively, if you really wanted to shave time and get the platinum ASAP, you could follow the treasure guide while playing the game for the first time round in Crushing. But I wouldn't recommend this. You would have to stress about accidentally going past one and then reloading and playing through a section again. And like I mentioned, almost all sections are really difficult to do. It also takes attention away from the story, which is obviously the main focus of the game. So once again, play the game through in normal or easy first time rounds to enjoy the story, then play it on Crushing to get the other difficulty trophies, then go back to easy or normal depending on what you played first, turn on the tweaks and speed run through. This is what I did, and I did it in about 4 hours or so, maybe less. Plus, it was nice to experience the story again without worrying about combat. To finish off this segment of trophies, you need to find this strange relic as well. You'll get a separate trophy for finding it alone, then the final extra trophy if you find all 60 treasures and the strange relic. All treasure trophies, including finding the strange relic, are bronze, So that's 7 bronze trophies, plus a gold called the Master Thief Collection for getting all the treasures and the strange relic. Next up we have headshot trophies. These are pretty self-explanatory. You'll get a bronze for 20 headshots and another bronze for 100, a silver for hitting 250, and another silver if you hit 5 in a row. These are all very easy to do, and you're most likely to get them through just playing the game. 5 in a row sounds hard, but it's really not, trust me, so don't worry. Next up we have brutal trophies. Hand-to-hand combat is a thing in this game. You have a normal combo, which is just mashing square 4 times, but you also have a brutal combo. They look cooler, deal more damage, but are harder for you to pull off. You have to press square, triangle, square, but you need to wait for your first hit to land before you press the next button, which is something the game doesn't actually tell you, and the timing is a bit of a learning curve to try and get over. Once you do get it, they're very easy to pull off and very satisfying. You'll need to kill 20 enemies total with a brutal combo to get bronze, which you should get just by playing the game. If not, I would boot up the first level and kill the pirates as they come aboard the boat. This is where you can also get the second trophy, where you have to kill 5 enemies in a row with a brutal combo to get a silver. You probably won't get this just by playing, I know I didn't, so once again, it's easiest just to load up the game in easy, play the first section, beat up 5 pirates in a row as they come aboard. Once again, the timing's a bit of a learning curve, but once you've cracked it, they're very easy to pull off. Just be patient when attacking, take your time, and expect to be replaying the first level a few times. Dyno-Might trophies. These trophies involve grenades. You have to kill 3 enemies with 1 explosion to get a bronze. You should get this just by playing with some well-placed grenades, but if not, replay chapter 4. There are some sections where it's really easy to pull off. For the next trophy, you'll have to do the same thing, just 5 times over to get silver. There is this section in chapter 4 where if you sneak up behind these guys and place the grenade well, you should easily get at least 3 of them. And then all you have to do is reload the last checkpoint, which will set you back about 10 seconds, and rinse and repeat. Once again, pretty easy, just need some good timing. Just as a side note, the grenade trophies work with grenade launchers as well, so keep that in mind if you find them easier to use. Hangman trophies. Climbing is a huge mechanic in this game, with whole sections dedicated to climbing all over the place. You can shoot while hanging on ledges, and you can also use grenades while hanging. This is what you need to do for both trophies. They are both bronzes. I need to kill 20 enemies with a gun while hanging for the first trophy, and kill 10 enemies with grenades while hanging for the second. The second one is slightly harder to do than the first, but you should get both just by play. If not, you definitely will get the first. If you struggle to get the second, you can always go back to the same section in chapter 4, and you'll get it while trying to get the Dyno-Might trophies. Run and Gunner trophy. This is one of the rare trophies that isn't really linked to any others. Essentially, you can run and shoot from the hip at the same time. The chances of hitting enemies are obviously lower than normal, but most of the time you'll still hit. You'll most likely get this trophy while playing, especially from chapter 16 onwards, as the descendants obviously don't shoot you, they chase you, so you'll often be running away from them while shooting behind you. If you don't get it while playing, replay any chapters with the descendants in it, mainly 17 to 20, as this is where it's easiest to do. This trophy is only a bronze. You then have the Steel Fist trophies. These 2 trophies are actually quite hard to do. You have to weaken enemies with gunfire and then kill them in 1 punch. Now, if you shoot enemies in the legs, they have about 3 seconds where they stumble. These 3 seconds are your window to run up and punch them. Not only is it easier, but more often than not, you get a cool little kill animation as well. For the first trophy, you just have to do this 5 times, and for the second, you have to kill 10 in a row. Despite these trophies being quite hard, they are unfortunately both bronzes. I got neither on my first time round, and I found the easiest way to do it is boot up chapter 4 in easy mode, and get to this area and do it here. It has the right number of enemies that come at you, and the square layout with lots of cover allows you to get close to enemies without getting shot, shoot them in the leg, do the finishing move, and then get back into cover, and you shouldn't be taking too much damage. As the second trophy suggests, you have to do 10 in a row, so that means no dying or restarting checkpoints. So for this trophy, get to this section, just take cover and take your time. You might not get it in the first try, and that's okay. It's all about trial and error. But if done right, you can get both in the same attempt. Master Ninja. This is another trophy that isn't really linked to any others. It's a silver. You have to kill 50 enemies via melee attack from behind. If you melee attack from behind, it's technically a stealth kill, although stealth isn't really a part of this game, which is actually my one big criticism of it. There's no way to sneak through areas. You have to kill everyone you see, and it would be nice to have the option to hide and run rather than shoot to get your way out of situations, but I digress. This section here in chapter 4 is really your only chance to do this, as this guy is far away enough from all his friends that they don't notice you stealth kill him. In all the other sections where it's implied that you should use a stealth kill, you will be noticed, so there's no way you can get this on your first time round, which is a shame. The way I got this trophy was by walking up behind this guy, hitting square to stealth kill him, then restarting the checkpoint and doing it again 50 times. Sounds boring and laborious, and it was, but it only took about 10 minutes or so, and really, this is the only annoying trophy to get, despite it being technically one of the easiest. We then have the Survivor Trophy. It's another trophy which isn't really linked to any others. For this, you have to kill 75 enemies in a row without dying. If you play the game through, first on easy or normal, like suggested, you should get this just by playing. If not, boot up a new game in a difficulty you've already beaten, and turn on infinite ammo and one-shot kills. It should be a breeze. I think this is actually one of the easiest silvers that you can get out of the list. Weapon kill trophies. Obviously, guns are a huge part of this game. You'll get a bronze trophy for killing either 50 or 30 enemies with each weapon, depending on the weapon. The weapons that are rarer and hold less ammo, like the MP40 or grenades, require 30 kills, whereas common weapons like the AK-47 and the PM9mm require 50. Once again, you should get all these just by playing and trying out all the weapons. If you don't happen to get them, just reload chapters where you know the weapons are, and use them until you get all the kills. If later on enemies stop dropping ammo for the weapons you're using, just reload the checkpoint or a different chapter and go again. Once again, very easy. There are 12 different bronze trophies up for grabs here, as there are 12 different weapons, and this makes up for the majority of the list. Shoot some B-roll for Elena. This is our last of our unrelated trophies. For this, you have to flick through photo mode. You can activate photo mode by pressing down on the D-pad, which is something the game doesn't tell you, but you'll end up stumbling upon it anyway, probably. And it's genuinely good for taking cool looking pictures. Considering how cinematic the game is, it can be good for making some cool PS4 home screens, and is an easy bronze trophy. Speedrun trophies. Last but not least, we have the speedrun trophies. The first is a silver and requires you to beat chapter 5 in under 10 minutes. I believe I did this first time round in about 7 minutes. These trophies are where playing the game through multiple times comes very much in handy, as you already know all the sections and enemy movements / behaviours like the back of your hand, so it should be relatively easy, but depending on your skill level and also a few slip-ups, it may take 1 or 2 tries to get. The exact same goes for the next, which requires you to beat chapter 12 in less than 5 minutes. This is a bronze trophy, and the last needs you to beat chapter 16 in less than 7 minutes. This one is a lot harder to do and is a gold trophy. I still beat it on my first time round, but only by about 3 seconds, so this will take some trial and error. There is a separate mode for speedrunning. Before you boot up the chapters, just go over to campaign and scroll one along to change it to practice speedrun. This then counts it as a speedrun, and you can see your time in the top right. Also, before you start your run, put the difficulty in easy. This should make it easier for you to get through the chapter and therefore a lot faster. This helps as well because you can't use tweaks for speedrun, because obviously that would be cheating. I would suggest that you take your time with this, but that goes against the whole point of a speedrun. So just do your best to get through as fast as you can. It will be difficult and you might not get it on your first time, so you're just gonna have to persevere. It is definitely possible. And that's all the trophies on our list. So after getting 34 bronze trophies, 8 silvers and 3 gold, you will be awarded the Platinum Trophy, simply titled Platinum. Trust me, if you get that far, definitely earned it. I think in total it took me about 40 hours to do, but it can easily be shaved down because I played through normal and hard as well, which I didn't realise that I didn't even need to do. So I'm guesstimating you could probably platinum the game in about 30 hours. Not the easiest platinum in the world, but definitely not the hardest. So yeah, I platinumed Uncharted Drake's Fortune, and that's what I thought. Once again, this is a brilliant game. I love it to bits. It really does deserve all the praise it gets, so please, if you haven't already, go and play it. I think that's all I've got to say, really. If you're listening to this, then thank you so much for sticking around. It's really appreciated. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next one.